So the other day, I did something a wee bit risky, a wee bit wild, and dare I say, a wee bit exciting. Well, what did I do, you ask? I took the best airplane in the world on my first bush landing. Okay, define bush. That is something I don't know. But what I do know is that this baby carried me on the ride of a lifetime. Okay, I'm totally over talking. This is the story of my first off-field landing in the Aronca Champ. And that, my friends, was very fun. So how this came about is I have a friend who has a ranch that me and my friends like to go shooting at, okay? Follow. We go shooting quite a lot. Guns, I mean. Shooting guns. The really cool thing is that the friends who bought this ranch have an airplane. And what's really cool is that this ranch already had a pre-existing runway on it. Now here's the catch. The runway is a wee bit risky. It's only 1,400 feet long. It's 45 feet wide. Plenty wide. Not super long. Plenty long on flat ground, but it's not on flat ground. Well, it is generally flat. It's got mountains cascading behind it on the sides, and then trees and power lines on the approach end. And the thing is, this bad boy, the 85 horsepower bug smasher, can't really outclimb those mountains. So that means that you have to approach from one end and depart out the same one. The issue with that is winds. If you have any winds, they're going to hurt you because pilots, we like to land with a headwind and take off with a headwind. Airports with multiple runways, that's easy because you have 4 runways to pick from. If you have 2 strips, you could take off 4 different directions. And generally, there's going to be one with some good winds. Some airports have 3 runways and 6 ways you could take off. Some have 1 and 2. This one had 1 and 1. 1 strip, 1 way to come in, 1 way to come out. Luckily though, I picked a great day that had no wind. However, it was cloudy and it was raining. I've never flown this bad boy in the rain, and the clouds were a wee bit low. Still legal for VFR flight because it is Class G airspace. What does that mean, you ask? Well, Class G airspace is defined as airspace 1,200 feet AGL, sometimes 700 feet AGL and below to the surface. AGL is above ground level. That means, depending on where you are, if you are 1,200 feet or below, or 700 feet or below towards the surface, then your weather minimums are 1 statute mile visibility clear of clouds, meaning you just can't touch them. Now, I've never flown in weather conditions like that. I have only flown in 3 statute miles visibility and the regular Class E weather minimums. Now, while that's awesome and great and dandy, this is my first time experience in that weather. Another thing was that this was my first time on a dirt runway. However, I do use the term dirt loosely because this is actually nice DG, or decomposed granite. Even though the runway condition was wet, the DG did not have a whole lot of puddles, but apparently this stepladder does. So the 1,400 foot runway length, the clouds, the rain, the runway condition, and the lack of experience were all things working against me. However, I am a man of no takesy backsies, and I said that I was gonna try this runway. For the longest time, every single time I go out to the ranch and I go shooting, I tell my friends, look, I'm gonna come try this runway, I swear, I really wanna do it. So the owner of the property flies a Cessna 150 with 135 or 150 horsepower Lycoming, I'm not sure which. And he gets in and out of there just fine. And for a lot of airplanes, 1,400 feet is a ton of length. The landing isn't as much the issue as the takeoff is because my airplane only has 85 horsepower. And when it's lugging my fat butt, which I'm only 175 or 180 pounds, it just doesn't like to climb. And so getting over those obstacles, AKA the power lines and the trees on the far end, are just, it's cutting it a bit close. But luckily, I took somebody with me who's a very experienced off-field pilot. He's been flying just, I think, for fun. I don't think he was a career pilot ever since he was a young kid. So he's done a ton of off-field stuff. He happened to be out at the airport today. He's a co-owner on the Bug Smasher with me, and this is the first time I'd gone flying with him. So I took him and he showed me the ropes. I was worried about taking him because of the extra weight. However, I think the experience far outweighed the cost of the weight. Get it? Outweighed the weight. So we got in the airplane and took off, and I'm gonna show you the footage of the flight. The only issue though is that for some reason the comms didn't work on the way out there, so you can't hear what we were saying, unfortunately, but you could still see what we were doing. So now I'm going to recreate with AI technology what we were saying. The guy in the back seat, his name's Ben, and my name is AJ. Okay, you think you got this one, kid? No, mister. There's some power lines and some trees and some mountains. Nah, you got it. Don't wimp out. Okay. I'm going to try it. Just make sure not to lay it up on the hill to our right or our left or behind us or in front of us, because you'll probably kill us both. And don't hit those power lines over there. Okay, mister. So there I was, focused, out of my mind. Felt like I was on Adderall, even though I don't know what Adderall is like. Wow, this thing is echoey. This is a intake of an F-16, by the way. I'll show you. See? F-16. Meow. I'm coming in. Okay, in my airplane, I don't have flaps, which means in order to descend or lose altitude quickly on final, on an approach to a runway, I have to do what's called a slip, which is basically making my airplane aerodynamically inefficient so that I lose altitude and I drop faster. So I kicked it over to the right with the right rudder, left aileron, I dug the wing into the left, and I slipped it in. Once I cleared the tree line though, as you can kind of see in the video, I rolled it out of that slip. And what he immediately said was, all right, kid, yeah, you better throw that thing back in the slip. We're gonna run out of runway. Okay. And so I got over those trees and those power lines, and I thought I was good because I'm used to landing on a 6,000-foot runway. Now, I have gotten good at landing pretty short field because I practice it quite often, but I overestimated how much time I had. So I did exactly what he said. I kicked it right back over into a slip, not a super aggressive one. It felt a little bit more aggressive in the airplane. I came down and I rolled it right as I touched the tires, right onto the dirt. So the landing was great, but here comes the takeoff. So first thing first, I had to get out of the airplane and talk to my friends because after all, that's why I flew out to the ranch. The original plan was to fly out by myself, shoot the landing by myself, and then hang out for the day and then take off later in the day and go back to home base. But the issue with that though is that the clouds were pretty low, the rain was coming in even worse, and I didn't really want to risk getting clouded in and stuck there. Because even though maybe I would have been legal to take off with the weather minimums, I'm just not used to flying like that, especially VFR in an airplane that's over 80 years old, or almost 80 years old. So I just decided to hang out for a few minutes, take back off with Ben, go back to home base, and then I drove out later to go shooting. So then it was time for the takeoff. Now, the takeoff is, like I said, a little bit interesting. I've practiced short field takeoffs before, but this one's different because you have to clear about a 50-foot, 60-foot obstacle off the end. I think this camera's too high. I cleared it. Makes me nervous. But we're at about max gross takeoff weight with both me and Ben in the back. Now, we're both somewhat light dudes, about 170 pounds each, 175 if I ate Taco Bell before, which is not bad. And I knew that the airplane could definitely get off the ground within well under half of the runway. It's maybe an underperforming airplane, but it can still get up. And Ben, who had a lot of confidence, gave me confidence because he's a lot more experienced than I am, which is great. Honestly, there's really not a whole lot to say about the takeoff. It went good. We cleared the trees by probably a good 30 feet. It looks like a little bit more in the video, but I want to say from the airplane, I would have guessed about 30 feet. And it went good. We were out of there. So here's the moral of the story. What you classify as bush flying, I don't know. All the bush flyers, Alaska flyers, agricultural pilots, and just certified bad dudes can comment and hate on me in the comment section if this wasn't cool enough. But I think it was cool, and that's what matters. You can make fun of me all you want, I don't care. What I do care about is the experience of doing that. It is so boring. I don't even know how to explain. I see all these people on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube romanticizing flying, right? Which is great for them. You know, whenever I take off, I feel like my soul has been freed when the wheels leave the ground. I really don't relate. I don't get it. Flying is like driving. I get in the car, I start the engine, I love the noise, I love the feeling, and I take off. That's all there is to it. But adrenaline and the fun and the excitement of doing things that are out of the ordinary, like landing on airstrips like this, is awesome. It is so boring taking off and just flying to an airport and landing. It's really not that fun. So being able to do stuff like this is really cool. Even though this is so low on the spectrum compared to everything that is possible in aviation. I mean, I could be flying that F-16. Life has no rules. You know, like, yeah, there's norms and there's like suggestions and there's laws, but like really, life has no rules. Do whatever you want all the time. My best friend says that all the time. Thanks for listening to my story, and hopefully I'll have some more to tell soon. And basically, I'm a professional bush pilot at this point, you know?